Welcome everybody to Hot Program. I am your host with the most from the East Coast, and I am joined by a man who says that reading the entire Old Testament took the J out of his joy. Woo! I've been trying to tell people it's not a good book. Folk, this is a man who needs no introduction. How are you doing today, my one black friend? Hang on a sec. I can't hear you. No, I can't. We can't hear you. Don't worry. We got it. Still can't hear you. Hang on a sec. Let's see why we can't hear my one black friend. Also, the chat is here. B.S. Lewis is in the house. Hang on, we got to, my one black friend's muted. That's all right. Let me make sure you guys can hear me. Check.
Maybe you can hear me now?
Lewis is in the house. Oh, yeah, you're good.
Okay.
You're good. All right, folks. We have got a very, very special interview lined up for you guys. We are just making our way through the community, picking out all of the superstars and having them join us on Hot Program. And today we have none other than one of the most utmost and professional, serious ushers in the cult of the Flying Man, the one and only Mr. Universe, the man who can not only lift the world up and hold it on his shoulders, he could just do it with one hand. He's just curling the world. You know, a lot of those other people that can hold up the world, it takes all their strength. No, Cameron's just curling it with just one arm. You know what I'm talking about? Give it up, folks, for Kamron Bennett. Amen. Hallelujah. Kamron Bennett is in the house. Kamron, how you doing today, man?
I'm all right.
Before we get started,
Welcome.
Before we get started, man, I just want to say that all the things I said that may have offended you or upset you, I apologize. I'm not sure if you could fight a person through the internet, but I'm very scared of the muscles. I'm sure you could figure it out. Let's just make peace right now. I'm sorry about all the offensive things I say on my channel. Please don't hurt me. I want to get started. I want my one black friend to get in here. I'm sure he's going to have a lot of great, wonderful, friendly Bible nerd things to ask you about. But before I do that, can you tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up Seventh-day Adventist? Because I have to admit, it's one of the denominations I don't know quite as much about, and I want to know maybe what that life is like and how it is similar and maybe dissimilar from other forms of Christianity that you know about.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah, growing up as an Adventist is pretty much kind of like growing up as a fundamentalist. You get used to being an Adventist. You kind of get used to being the oddball out because, you know, other Christians, even like you just mentioned, they don't know a lot about Seventh-day Adventists. They have a lot of, you know, not only misunderstandings, but just different understandings of what they believe and stuff like that. But yeah, growing up as a Seventh-day Adventist was pretty much living like in a fundamentalist household. Not as strict as some Seventh-day Adventists. If you watch the one I did with Rebecca on her stream, I pretty much explained like when it comes to Seventh-day Adventists, it's not like it's kind of like a Baptist in terms of like you're going to talk to each individual person. It's going to be different. It's not like you can't characterize what I say over what it is for all Seventh-day Adventists. Like there's another Seventh-day Adventist that's in the community. He's actually still one. I don't know if you guys know Jamie Russell. He's always in the chat.
Oh no, I didn't. I do know who Jamie Russell is. I didn't know he was the Seventh-day Adventist.
Yeah. So he's always in the chat. So you know his understanding of what it is to be Seventh-day Adventist is probably different from like my family's and how I was brought up. You know, it's very different depending on each family. Even that's in my from my experiences because I was very involved in the community. You know, a lot of different churches, stuff like that. So I grew up. You know, I was baptized at 10 years old.
Wow.
Because kind of like what our church family kind of does. Around 10 years old, we start taking like Bible study classes with our little pamphlets of, stuff like that. And then you get baptized. And a lot of times when people get baptized, it's not really, since you're 10 years old, I mean, what do you really know, right? It's kind of like an indoctrination type of thing. So a lot of times, through the teenage years, people kind of fall away. Me, I had my own issues that I dealt with, but yeah, like for us, the differences between, I don't really know exactly, I'm just rambling because I really don't know exactly
No, I
what.
appreciate this. This is great. Yeah, this is I kind of want to leave it open-ended. Yeah, that's great. And you would say like serious kind of biblical literalism and...
Yes and no. Yes and no. It's really weird. Like, I feel like I was thinking about this last night, actually. Like, my family, they're very, like, 'cause they're still super religious. I'm like the oddball out. I'm literally like the black sheep of the family because they're all super still into it. And I'm not, but in terms, they're like, I feel like they're like, you know how Rebecca is and how Kenny is? It's like they're not to the extreme. It's like they go
You're
as
talking
far as they
about
can.
Rebecca from Bread of Life, and
Yeah.
I forget the name of
and
Kenny's channel, but a lot of people
it's-
know Kenny.
It might be Empty Tomb. I don't know, that's the name he uses in a lot of chats. It's Empty Tomb. I don't know if that's the name of his channel, but that's the name that I recognize him in the chats. But I feel like they try to go as logical as they can right up until it hits the beliefs. So like young Earth creationism, I wasn't brought up to necessarily be a young Earth creationist. When I ask questions about the cosmology of the universe, they're kind of like, they would say like maybe that it's possible that the universe is super old, but then the Earth is younger. I think that's kind of what like Rebecca says. But even still, they weren't solid on that. They would say stuff like, well, but it may be, how there's that one scripture in the Bible where it says like, 1 year is 1,000 years to God, and so maybe each year isn't like an exact year. It might be 10. So
yeah, we call that day age creationism in technical whatever in education circles or whatever. But yeah.
So they didn't really strictly teach me young Earth creationists, but they're sort of to us, it wasn't really an issue in terms of how old the Earth is, but in terms of right where, humans started, that we did believe. I did believe, Adam and Eve were the first humans. I believe all the, I shouldn't call them shit stories, but all those stories, I believed in the Tower of Babel. I believed in Noah's Ark. I believed in all that nonsense. I call it nonsense now because I can't believe how I believed it, but I believed all of it. I believed all of it 100%, so that's where my mindset was. I did become a young Earth creationist when I was a little bit older, when I became a reborn Christian around 20 years old because of Kent Hovind. It's embarrassing now. That's even
wow. Yeah, it shows that he has influence. Yeah, for real.
You were baptized in water.
I was baptized in water, yes, twice. But yeah, I went crazy on Kent Hovind. I found him by accident on YouTube, and then I just got addicted to his videos. I would watch him all the time, and then I thought Kent Hovind was like, I was like, he's like the shit. I was like, oh my god, this shit's real. I knew it. Blah 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 blah. I like, and
he is shit.
I feel like that now, honestly. Now I just get a headache from even watching him on any of the debates because he doesn't do anything different. It's literally, I could be Kent Hovind if I wanted to and create and repeat back his scripts to all the debates because he just says the same thing over and over again. But anyways, so that's what it was in terms of that. In terms of everything else, obviously the Seventh-day Adventists, they keep the Sabbath, and that's kind of like the way the sunset Friday evening to the sunset Saturday evening. That whole 24.
Does that mean Saturday is your day of church and services?
Yes.
Or okay.
Yeah, so pretty much like how today most Christians are at church. My family, they're out doing stuff. Like one of my sisters, she's moving, so they're helping her move. Yesterday, my whole family was at church, but we have to kind of shut things down Friday night. So the moment, like before the sunset, actually, like on Friday, you kind of like want to get everything together. You want to do your chores and Once that sunset hits on Friday evening, Friday night, no more TV. In terms of like secular TV, you have to only watch like my parents. They would watch like, Joyce Meyer, Joel Osteen, Benny Hinn. Like even if they didn't believe that stuff, because obviously we're Seventh-day Adventists, but they were.
Yeah, I was gonna say so. It's sort of like it's still Christian content, so it's okay to consume. I keep asking questions. There's so many I have. My one black friend, please get in here because I'm gonna keep going.
Sure. Well, I just want to hear the rest of what you have to say, Cameron, about your upbringing. Circle back with some questions because I'll certainly have some.
I'll just ramble because honestly, like the way my mind process is very different from most people. So if you don't ask me a very direct, specific question, sometimes I could just go down a rabbit trail, and we're not even talking about what you originally asked me.
Oh, this is useful.
I'm gonna let you know that from jump. Like, I'm gonna let you know.
Fine. So you said you got rebaptized. Is that because of a woman?
No.
Did it all on your own volition, or was
yes? I'll get to that story later. No, I could get to that story if you want to, but I'll get there. I guess I'll get there eventually, but that had nothing to do with the women. No. It was completely so yeah. So the 7th-day thing, and then obviously you watch VeggieTales. For us as kids, since I'm a little older, I didn't really watch VeggieTales at that age. I don't know if you guys have heard of the Hanna-Barbera series, but there's this Hanna-Barbera series where these 3 kids would go back in time and whatever. But anyway,
I've actually been thinking about watching those, like doing content with those.
You should.
Yeah,
I think
it'd be funny.
You should. I was watching Aaron Ross. Aaron Ron had he does the reading the Bible on Sundays. He'll probably do it today sometime, or actually I think he's skipping this week. But one of the people he had on his panel actually brought that up, and I was like, oh, and about how the Noah's Ark one, you should do one on Noah's Ark. It's terrible. They show the hands in the water,
yes, I think I saw that. Crazy. I saw that, and that's what made me look them up. And then I got a whole playlist of them, and I was like, all right, we're gonna get into these.
Yeah. So pretty much that's what we would watch.
I was at work, I think, when you two were little.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to ask quickly, what's it like now in your household? And because you're now, I guess, living more of a secular thing. Do you have your own family? And if so, how does that tension play out with the sort of wider family dynamic?
Okay. So I live with my fiance. She's at work right now. That's literally the only reason I'm able to do this. She's at home.
Sure.
Okay. Because we live in an apartment, so I'm literally in our room right now. But so I live with my fiance, and we have a roommate. And we're both, ex-Christian. She was in the 7th Adventist. I met her at my last job before I became a trainer. I met her at a casino. I actually trained her in that job. But yeah, she's not a Christian. She's actually a pastor's kid too. So she grew up in the church as well. Yeah, she grew up in the church as well. And obviously, it's a daughter of a pastor, so she had an interesting life, to say the least. Mine was different. My dad was a deacon, so we both grew up in Christian households, so it's pretty funny. But now we're both super anti-Christian. We don't really talk about our beliefs a lot because we don't have we don't subscribe to any particular religion. She's a little bit more. Go ahead.
You said anti-Christian. Do you mean not Christian, super not Christian, or are you against Christianity in some way? Anti could mean more against. Yeah. I just want you to be understood and not somebody try to throw this in your face later.
Got you. Okay, well, I'm going to speak for myself. I don't want to, since she's not here and she's not able to speak her mind, even though I know how she feels, I'm going to speak for myself. I am anti-Christian. I do not like now, back when I was Christian, I loved it. But now I do not like Christianity. I don't think it's a healthy religion. I think, and the more I interact with some of these Christians on YouTube, the more and more I hate it. And talking about the stream that Jay had last night, that's one of the biggest reasons. Well, not one of it. There's many reasons why I don't like Christianity, but I feel like Christianity it's a toxic religion. Just from the main factor of you're teaching children or teaching people that they are depraved, that they are they're low and they need to be saved. Like the whole mindset. I think.
Wait. This is the perfect thing to jump into. Yeah. Why is that bad?
Why? Okay, no, go. Yeah, why is that? I think it's not good for mental health.
So hold on. I'm asking a personal trainer this, and I'm doing that for a reason.
Okay.
Because in some of the people that you meet that you have to train, because they're out of shape.
Yeah.
They're out of shape. And there are times where it's reinforced in that person's mind that God will fix whatever's going on with them.
Yep.
And so they don't actively go for it themselves, right? They're not trying to fix it themselves. And I want people to know that's dangerous and can be, as that I've seen it in my own family, it's deadly, potentially. So I'll go back to my question. Forget I said any of that. What is your answer? How is that bad? Why is that bad?
I wasn't even thinking about it in a physical, healthy way, but it does affect that as well. But I just think it's for people's mental health. It's not good to. It's for me, from my perspective. I can only speak from my perspective. It's bad because it makes you think less of yourself, and it's like instead of looking to yourself to see how you can make yourself better, you're always looking somewhere external. And obviously, well, from our perspective, it doesn't exist. So you're looking to nothing, literally, to fix something that you should be looking at yourself. And what you said, like when I went from being a Christian to not being a Christian, that's when I took my health more seriously. You know what I'm saying? Like I would exercise as when I was a Christian, but I didn't eat right. And I feel like a lot of people's mind are so focused on the destination, which for them is heaven. They're not thinking about the journey. For me, that's the only thing that changed. Well, not the only thing. That's one of the big things that changed in my mindset from being a Christian to not being a Christian is when I was a Christian, I was so focused on heaven. I want to go to heaven. I want to meet my sister. I want to be with God. And then when that left, then I was like, okay, now my focus is no longer on the destination. Now it's on the journey. Like I need to experience every moment and be here and now. And then I cared more about people here and now because before I cared about trying to save, also trying to get people to heaven. Now I'm like, no. I'm trying to help people. And I want you to live a healthy, a happy life now. Like I don't want you to be in pain. I don't want you to be sick. So what can I do to help you now? So hopefully that's your question. Like I said, I went on a tangent, but hopefully
that's a pretty good answer.
For me, and you touched on this a little bit. So for people that didn't see last night's episode, it was just about the joy of slavery, right? And it kind of had a hard turn in it where the guy sort of started off mocking sort of a pro-slavery attitude, and then he transitioned into but serious though. It's a real joy to be a slave for Jesus, right? Because, Jesus is the perfect master. And if you understand that it's really the master that has obligations to his slave. And as a slave, it's free because the master's always providing for you. And it spoke to a couple of things. One, when he came flat out and said, I would love to be a slave for Jesus. Oh, I wish there was a Bible passage, right? I'd love to, they went through the whole, because that's every black Christian's fantasy is that when they remake the Bible 2.0, you're so faithful, you're in it, right? So he said, I wish there was a scripture about me where it says I was a slave to Jesus, because all the cool apostles, say they were a slave to the Lord or whatever. And for me, it just spoke to something that is totally irreconcilable with the American black identity. Like I said, and here's where I was going with this last night that I never actually quite got there, which is I started talking about how growing up, I was never considered like really black, right? And I mean that seriously, right? Because I grew up in the suburban gated community, and I went to private schools, and I grew up in northeastern Pennsylvania, where was most of my family's from urban New Jersey, right? So they were like, oh, Jay, you're up there in the mountains with all the white kids, and your mom's a corporate executive. You're not really black, right? And then all the white kids that I went to school with, and I was the only black kid in the whole school, they were like, oh, you're like an Oreo, black on the outside, white on. So nobody treated me like I was black. Nobody. I didn't get it. So go fuck yourself. It was both sides treating me like I couldn't really call myself black, right? And now I have all these black Christians in my life who are all about the Lord and all this stuff. And I feel like me of all people, little Oreo J grew up to be the radical black one who has to be like, hey, y'all, wanting to run around calling somebody and master and Lord and supplicate them for eternity is really not consistent with our journey to freedom. Do I have to say that? Me? Really? Like, it just feels like for me, it's genuinely uncomfortable. It's genuinely like awkward, and I never expected to find myself in the position of having to tell black people, like, what are y'all doing? So just wanted to get that out there.
Well, okay, I got to jump in here.
Sure.
I seriously try to avoid about talking about conformity and how to get masses of people to conform. This part of the Christian message does exactly that. Not only are you trying for unity, but you want conformity. Why? Because the people leading the congregations forget if the writers had different intentions initially, right? If they're just trying to get the church to grow, just trying to get people to help each other and be happy. Well, it certainly does that. But when you build in the conformity piece by telling them it's okay to be a slave to Christ and you're always supposed to be serving and things like that, you are getting a group of people that will obey. I was reading a bit of the preamble to the Constitution basically this morning, and I had heard that a certain politician or certain politicians want to make the United States a theocracy. This is a bad idea because I think had they really studied what a theocracy is, they would find themselves rather unhappy because a lot of the choices they enjoy, they would lose.
So wait, there's a politician who's openly saying they want a theocracy?
This is what I've been told.
Okay.
This is what I've been told. So
Okay.
the word that I've really focused on was liberty. Now, with liberty, I am allowed to make my own decisions. As long as I'm not violating the law, as long as I'm not hurting another person, I have liberty to make the choices that I see fit. A person who is whatever their religion, the same is true for them. They can follow the rules of their faith as closely as they can. 613 commandments, folks. I'm pretty sure my shirt with the turbo on the back breaks like 3 of them. I got a graven image of a turbocharger and a hammer. I got multiple fabrics in here, fibers making up my fabric here. I'm sure it's poly cotton. It's got a nice feel to it. But, look, this under Christianity and Judaism, this shirt is forbidden for several reasons. I could easily, if I wanted to stay faithful to the 613, wear a nice linen shirt or a nice cotton shirt with no graven images on it. I can do that, right? I can eat certain things, right? I could worship and choose not. I could worship in a certain way. I could. You mentioned, Kamron, you were a Seventh-day Adventist. Well, hey, the Seventh-day Adventists get it. The Sabbath is a Saturday. It's not Sunday. Sunday's the first day of the week. I've had arguments about this with my friends from other countries who have different cultures, and they still don't see it my way. Why? Because they were enculturated differently.
Yeah.
But if you go to the Hebrew text, we learn Saturday is the seventh day. And on the seventh day, what?
You rested.
God rested.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
He was doing so much. He just needed a rest. Yeah.
And I did all that. I did too much in one day. I made the rest of the universe Friday. I mean, Earth was easy because I took it slow, but the universe, crap, that's a lot of work, angels. Pace yourselves. Pace yourselves. Anyway, God-giving advice from heaven. Pace yourselves, everybody. But yeah, I think that's an important thing to focus on. You have the ability to make your choices without someone infringing on that liberty. If we have a theocracy, it is the goal of the theocracy not to promote liberty, but to strip it away and make everybody follow a preset set of rules that narrow what people are able to do. So you don't have freedom anymore.
Yeah, you just don't. You don't.
It's you know what it is? I worked on a ranch that was also a camp, and we had a cow. We raised this cow. I took care of this cow. I didn't do its veterinarian duties, but I fed it, cleaned up after it, made sure, it had enough water and things like that. I took care of this cow. The guy who ran the place says, we're going to slaughter that cow and keep the meat. So that cow was able to walk around the pastures. It would eat right out of my hand. It felt very comfortable in its existence, right?
Right.
It wasn't free.
Absolutely.
And the day it got slaughtered, I think it might have known what was coming because it tried to gore my friend.
Wow.
You know.
Wow.
So we loaded it on the trailer. We took it to the slaughterhouse. And the boss, he was off somewhere doing something. And the guy in the slaughterhouse who was going to actually do the work, he goes, "You want to watch this? It's pretty interesting." And I was kind of a sensitive kid. I said, I don't know. Can I have a couple of horns, though? He goes, "Yeah." And he went and got me some horns. And he goes, you probably don't want to see this.
Wow.
I watched probably the next hour and a half of what happened to that cow.
Wow.
And I'll tell you, the illusion that the cow must have had that it was free was nice. But the truth was, what was in store for that cow was never good for the cow.
Right.
All the horses that surrounded it, we weren't eating horse meat. All these other horses that I took care of, when I walk out, here they come. What's he got? Does he have a sugar cube or something? You know, they're just looking at me like I'm the dude with the treats,
Right.
food, and the water. And they all those animals were happy to see me. So, but the cow was treated differently because we knew what was coming. The cow, here's some grain, nice grain-fed cow. Oh, you eat all that grass you want. You know, making sure that this cow is getting its comeuppance. Yeah, exactly. And I couldn't eat it for like the first 5 weeks. I refused to eat any of it because I was like, I can't. I like that cow. Anyway, all that to say, if America is headed towards a theocracy, it's gonna be like that. The freedom that people think they're enjoying is really, you're just waiting to be devoured by people who don't understand the rules they're trying to apply to you.
Thank you.
And they're going to ask that those rules don't apply. They want them to apply to you, but not them. They want to be exempt, and that's dangerous. Did you, Kamron, see any of that in your church? Where the rules, some people in the Seventh-day Adventist church, the ones of your experience, thought the rules were for you and not them?
I don't think so.
Oh, you're so lucky.
That's good.
I don't think so.
If my fiance is watching this, she's saying, "What?"
Well, because I think there are differences too in denominations, right? There are different sort of ministerial cultures, right? There's some cultures where to get to be a deacon or to get to be a pastor, you're gonna be sort of weeded out by, let's say, some people who themselves are super devout. Whereas there's other churches that I've even seen where the culture is, well, this person's really charismatic. This person, the golden plate gets full when they come through and preach. And so there's different considerations as to who's in power. And then I think that leads to some of these differences, right? And my church, the one I played at, it'd be very hard to be sort of a corrupt preacher, right? Because there's so many true believers controlling this stuff, right? And you'd have to be real committed to, you know what I mean? And it'd probably just be easier to do that somewhere else. But I did want to bring up this question from B.S. Lewis. How do Seventh-day, and that, by the way, thank you, chat. We got an engaging host. We try to stay focused on that. But if you guys add us or throw us up some great questions, we try to get to them. How do Seventh-days deal with the Hebrew apologetic of Jesus being Lord of the Sabbath? Hebrews as in the book of Hebrews. Jesus being Lord of the Sabbath.
So that wasn't sure.
I was getting me too.
I think Rebecca asked me the same question too, sort of, or somebody on the channel did, and for us or for them, for us, whatever, that didn't really change the way, I guess, that
What's the angle there? I don't even know what the angle there. What is it? What is the
what
issue
they're trying to say? What they're trying to say is, and this is one of the things, is one of the processes of me deconstructing was when I was doing research. The funny thing is, see, I could go on a rabbit trail here, but when I was trying to research, before I went to why am I believing the Bible, I first said, okay, why am I even a Seventh-day Adventist? So, and then one of the things I looked into was the Seventh-day Sabbath. Like, why does all the Christians keep Sunday and we're some fringe group that keep, the Seventh-day Sabbath? So I was literally looking to see, like, maybe we're wrong, maybe we're missing something. So I'm looking, and there's excuse after excuse, none of which is biblical. Some of them, the excuses were, oh, well, because Jesus rose on Sunday, which it had nothing to do with the Sabbath. And then I guess from what the comment was asking, one of the apologetics I try to use is that, and this is what Rebecca said, is that man was not made for Sabbath, or Sabbath was made for man, or something like that. And then
Sabbath
Jesus
was made for man. Yeah, Jesus.
Yeah, not man for the Sabbath. Yeah, and how Jesus is Lord of the Sabbath. But I guess from the Seventh-day Adventist perspective, that's not really an excuse. That's not really an apologetic. It's not saying, oh, don't keep the Sabbath. I think what it's doing is pretty much telling us, I guess, not to be as legalistic as the Jews. Like, there won't be like Pharisees about the Sabbath. I don't know if I'm a little rusty on my biblical literacy because before I read the Bible.
Don't believe it.
Yeah, but I think this might be in relation to that story where Jesus and his disciples, I don't know if they're like picking something to eat, or they're doing something that I think the Pharisees or people were just like, they're tripping about, like, don't do that, it's the Sabbath, what are you doing? And then oh, it's the excuse that Sabbath is every day. Oh, I haven't heard that excuse. Yeah, that's an excuse I haven't heard. I heard a lot of other excuses for why they keep the Sunday, but not that excuse. But then Jesus was like, pretty much like, chill, you guys. It's not like that. From the Seventh-day Adventist perspective, as most Christians believe, you're supposed to keep the Ten Commandments, right? Except for Rebecca, that's why I find her interesting, because she's one of the Christians who don't think keeping the Ten Commandments is relevant. But
what is she, just the two commandments? Love God, love your neighbor, exactly, or whatever.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and that's what she told me, which is why I thought it was, because she agreed with me. She agreed with me that Christians are very not hypocritical, but not contradictory. Inconsistent. There you go. They're very inconsistent, because they'll tell you night and day, oh, we got to keep the Ten Commandments. The Ten Commandments are important. They have the Ten Commandments posted on all these different little things. The Ten Commandments all the time. But then out of all the Ten Commandments, the only one that they have an excuse to break is the Fourth Commandment. Why? And that's one thing I never could find biblical. Why is the Fourth Commandment the only one that there's all these excuses for? And, oh, well, this or that. There's nothing biblical. There's nowhere in the Bible where it says, okay, just kidding, now it's Sunday, or do whatever you want. And so, as V.S. Lewis pointed out, to me, that seemed like an excuse. And I think part of me seeing go ahead, sorry.
I want to jump in and please continue. I just want to say Exodus 35:2, for 6 days work may be done, but the seventh day shall be your holy day, a Sabbath of complete rest to the Lord. Whoever does any work on that day must be put to death. For 6 days work is to be done, but I think this is saying it twice. Okay, so this little excerpt from Bible Hub. So thankfully, things aren't this serious where we need to kill people for doing a job. Because if I'm not saying that God couldn't provide for people so they didn't have to work on a Sunday or Saturday even to support their family. I'm not saying that can't happen, but for millions of people, maybe even billions of people around the world, Saturday they have to work to take. I have an
explanation for that. I have an explanation for that as well, actually, because that came up a lot. Obviously, that's going to come up. Oh yeah. So say like there's one of our church family people that we're really close with, and the mother, I think she still is a nurse or whatever. So if you have one of those jobs where you're like either a policeman, a firefighter, a nurse, or blah blah blah, I guess that's kind of like you're still okay to work on the Sabbath. But I can't speak for. No, I'm saying from my perspective, yeah, you can. But what they do is instead of keeping, because you're helping somebody, you're doing something that's a service to others. So you're not just flipping burgers at McDonald's or something like that. Because we would ask questions like that in church or in Sabbath school. We call it Sabbath school. I know most people call it Sunday school. For us, it was Sabbath school. We would ask questions like, but what about the electricity, or what about all these kind of like all these jobs that need to be done on Saturday? Well, you can't just shut off thing, on it. But so the explanation that I received from my church friends and family was, and because we discussed it, was pretty much that you're able to do those jobs, but what some people do is the money that they earned from that day that they were working on the Sabbath, they don't keep that money. That money goes to God. So they will never spend the money that they earned on that day for themselves, because that's now they're doing like physical labor. Instead, they're still going to work. They're not going to lose their job. They're still helping other people, but now this money is going to the church or God or whatever. It's not going to them. So that's what's
one day.
Yeah.
Thank you. One day we're going to do an episode where I play the Christian apologist.
Okay.
You can write in with this question, because I would simply say, well, look, for the strangers and the heathen around us, let them work on the Sabbath. Let them do those things on the Sabbath. But you must adhere to righteousness. Because even if I give you money and you give it to the temple, you donate it to the temple, it's still wrong. It still breaks this commandment. It's one thing if you're my neighbor and I break my leg and you're nice enough to set my leg for me, because again, that's like the animal falling into the ditch. Like, you go dig it out of there. You don't let it lay there and suffer. You don't let others suffer. But it's not transactional, right? There's no money given there. So I'm just saying. I got loads of them, dude. I got loads of them.
No, that's fine. From my family's perspective, they wouldn't see it that way, because for us, they care not just about, they don't consider, well, they do, but they wouldn't consider everyone else heathens per se, even though they would. It's more so they don't want to be contributing to anybody else being to work on the Sabbath, which is why they won't even eat out on the Sabbath. On Sunday, a lot of people after church, they go eat at a restaurant or they do whatever. For Seventh Adventists, no. After we have potluck or eat at home, you cannot go eat out at a restaurant, because now you're causing somebody else, even though they're not Seventh Adventists, they don't care about it. You're causing somebody else to work on the Sabbath. So since they don't want to even contribute to anybody else working on the Sabbath, they will not eat out. They won't go to the mall. They won't do anything like that, because for them, it's just as important as them not breaking the Sabbath, other people not breaking the Sabbath. If they can help, it's really weird, but that's just the way that I was brought up. So I know there's other versions, like I said, not one cut and dry Seventh Adventist way to go about doing stuff, but this is just from my perspective, how I was taught, how I was raised. Because I did have some friends who were Seventh Adventists that would go out to eat, and we would think like, ooh, they're going to eat on the Sabbath, but for them, I don't know, maybe they thought the way you did, and it was kind of like, well, we're not doing it, and they don't care, so it is what it is. But for my family, it's like, no, we will not contribute to anybody else, breaking what we thought or what they believe is God's holy day. Like, nah.
Kamron, I want you to come back and watch this and watch your gestures and how often you did this gesture with your hand.
Oh, I'm nervous. I don't like doing. This is my third time doing this. And this was impromptu. So the other two were planned out. This one, I just, I'm over here trying not to pass out. So.
Well, thank you for joining us. I didn't realize it could be a bit stressful. We really appreciate it.
You guys are used to this. I don't do this. I mean, I video stuff all the time, but I don't like talking on camera a lot. So I get nervous. So
I could come on your broadcast and you can make me nervous. Like, I have to do what now?
Oh no, I won't broadcast. The only thing that I do is I might record my clients, exercising, but I don't. We don't talk on the camera. Yeah.
Wish me luck. Well, let's talk about your exodus from religion. Was it a sudden thing, or was it really gradual? And if you can, you hit upon this a little earlier, but what were some realizations you had as you went along where it was like, well, what were some of those things that you found on your journey?
I'm just to make it easier for my brain, I'm gonna literally give you the long version of this. So if you have other questions that you want to interject, you just might want to take notes so I can just get through everything, and I'm gonna try to talk fast. So hopefully I won't bore you. But I'm gonna tell you the longer version, because there's one thing that happened that people think was the cause of me leaving Christianity, and it wasn't. So I always like to start with a specific thing first before I get into what really happened. So pretty much, like I said, I was baptized at 10 years old. Up until that point, I definitely believed in God, all that good stuff. In terms of relationship with God, I did pray, reading my Bible. I didn't do like every single day, but I was raised in. I went to school from kindergarten all the way through high school. I went to a Seventh-day Adventist high school and elementary school. So I was pretty much indoctrinated, entrenched. Everything was Seventh-day Adventist, just everything. So probably around junior high was around the age where I started really praying hard and stuff like that. And then my 8th grade, the end of my 8th grade year, pretty much like a week before I was about to graduate from 8th grade. And like I said, this is a little sad, but I'm just gonna blow through it real quick. But my oldest sister died, and this is why I'm bringing this up, because a lot of people think this was the reason why I left Christianity. It's not. Ironically enough, this is one of the reasons why I held on to it for so long, because I wanted to see her get in heaven. But anyway, so she actually kind of suddenly died when I was 14 years old. And it was very hard. What happened during that time, or what happened right after that, is I still believed in God, but I was really mad at God, because I was like, why would you kill my sister? Like, why would you do that? And it was just very frustrating. So I went through a rebel phase pretty much my entire high school years. So I did believe. I still went to church, but I was behaving as if I didn't believe. One big thing that I didn't bring up in this conversation is that Seventh-day Adventists, they don't believe in an eternal conscious torment hell. When it comes to life after death, most Seventh-day Adventists believe that everyone who's dead is dead. Like, nobody's in heaven looking down on us, and nobody's in hell burning. As of right now, my sister and everyone who's died, they're in the graves. They kind of have a Jewish perspective of pretty much life after death. So what they believe is that when Jesus comes back again, which we're all still waiting for, supposedly, when Jesus comes back, and that's when all the dead will rise, and then whatever. The other rest of it doesn't matter. So whatever. So I was never afraid of hell, because I never believed in hell. So for me, the worst that could happen is that God will kill me twice. Like, I'm gonna die in this life, and then when Jesus comes back, I'll be raised, and then judgment, and then I die again. So hell was never a fear of mine. So when my sister had died and I blamed God for it, I rebelled, and it was kind of like intentional rebellion, because I wanted to make God mad, because in my beliefs, God loved me. He wanted me to obey Him and love Him. So for me, I literally wanted to reject Him. And I would pray like mean prayers to Him, like, I want this to hurt you. I'm doing something, like, I literally do stuff on purpose that were sinning, because I wanted to hurt God. So I kind of just rejected Him, did my own thing. It is what it is, and that's what I did, literally from freshman year all through when I graduated high school. So I went to college. I went to a secular college. Most people that go to Seventh-day Adventist elementary school and high school, a lot of us go to Seventh-day Adventist universities. There's a lot of them. There's Loma Linda, there's La Sierra, there's a bunch of them all over the place. But I chose not to go to one of those. I went to a secular university, go Aztecs, STSU. Anyways, so I went to a secular college. I initially majored in a major that is trash. And so what happened was, my freshman year of college, this is when everything went downhill. One of my best friends died. And that was terrible for me. So during his funeral, of course, they had the preacher speak and whatnot. And during the sermon, he kept on just, talking about heaven. They always pushed like the seeing our loved ones in heaven again, and blah, blah, blah. And it was just weighing on my heart. And obviously I wanted to see my sister again. I wanted to see him again. And between my sister and him, I lost a lot of other people, like a lot of people in my life. So I was, okay, let me stop being stupid. And I'm just like, I kind of like apologized to God, and I went full throttle right back into Christianity, like hardcore. And I took it very seriously, and I felt really bad. So I literally read the Bible every single day, and had my devotionals. I would fast every Sabbath. Like, I just took it very, I was dedicated. I went door to door to evangelize, and at the same time, I changed my major from whatever it was to not knowing what I was getting myself into, because I was naive, being 19 years old. I became a religious studies major. And that alone could probably tell you what happened. So being a religious studies major at a secular college is not it's not what I thought. I was actually trying, because I had been reading the Bible, and I read the Bible from cover to cover probably 3 or 4 times, and I read them in different versions, from King James to New King James to New International, whatever. I wanted to read them in different versions, but I would Bible all the way through. So that was part of my daily devotion. And I wanted to like know as much as I could about the Bible, and I just wanted to be super like a biblical scholar, so that because people were already coming to me asking me questions, and I kind of felt like I wanted to make sure I could be that guiding light to people, so I could let them know what was going on with the Bible. So I wanted to evangelize better. So for me, this was like perfect. I'm gonna be a studies major. I'm gonna know everything. I'm gonna be able to explain to everybody about the Bible. So I was gonna go in there hype. Man, that first class just went boosh, punched me in the stomach. Like, well, I said stomach, I hit my face, but punched me hard because it was not what I expected. I remember the class, I will never forget. It's called Exploring the Bible. And that first class took a really big hit to my faith. And a lot of the Christians that were in that class actually left the class because it was a lot. But
Really?
yeah, because it was a lot. They pretty much went in. I remember the teacher. She was a blatant atheist. She said she was an atheist, but she used to be a Jew. So she was a Jew gone atheist. But anyways, we talked about hell and the history of hell and how it was Sheol and how the Jews and the ancient Israelites, they didn't believe in heaven and hell the way that Christians do now, and they went through all that. They went through piece by piece. I'm not going to get into all the pieces. I can go for days, but pretty much all the stuff that like Christine Hayes knows, Dr. Josh Bowen, and all they just went through piece by piece, like the specifics, and taking the Bible out of just the Bible and putting each part of the Bible into the context of where it was in history.
Yes,
and when you do that, when you take the Bible out of the Bible and you put it to where it actually belongs in history, it makes a lot of sense, and it stops making sense as the Bible, because you're seeing all these things that I'm sitting here like, uh-oh. But mind you, because I was so hardcore Christian at the time, I was thinking, my first thought was like, okay, this is just the devil trying to get me. Like, the devil's trying to make me lose my faith, and so I refused to go down without a fight. So I continued to do my daily devotion and pray, and mind you, when all these doubts that were flooding my brain, I wasn't really speaking to anybody about it, because if people are coming to me for spiritual, guidance and knowledge, what's it going to look like me questioning things, and so I never really talked to people about my faith or my losing it. It was like pretty much a 3-year process. I won't go into all the details, but there was straw after straw after straw that were just, breaking the camel's back. I would go home or to my dorm room to like research online and try to find like reasonings behind, like, why is this, why is that? And most of the times I wouldn't find good answers. Sometimes I would, and I would hold on to them, but sometimes I wouldn't. And then I would have to try to my own reasons in my head. Like, I would get my own apologetics when I couldn't find the ones that fit what I thought were good enough. And so year after year, it was like that. And then obviously, as a religious studies major, I'm not only learning about Christianity and the Bible, I'm learning about Eastern religions, Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism. I'm learning about all these other religions that I've never heard of before, that I didn't even know existed. Because when you get taught from some of the Adventist perspective about other religions, of course they're going to teach them to you as they're false. Like, this one's the right one, but these crazy people believe in all this nonsense, right? But no, so pretty much.
I think we lost him. Are you there?
Hindus, with
Yeah, I think he's just having a bit of a connection issue.
I'm still here. I'm still here.
Okay.
Yeah, just give it a second for his.
Am I back? Oh no, am I back now?
Yeah.
To make sure.
I think you're good. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I'll try to go quicker now. I'm towards the end anyways. So pretty much what I do with the Bible history, we're putting the Analects and the Tao Te Ching, whatever, the Bhagavad Gita, blah, doing the same thing. And I'm seeing a similarity between all these and mine. I'm here like, wait a minute. And then, so it's getting harder and harder for me to make excuses. And then I started questioning. And then what really messed me up, this was probably like one of the biggest strikes, towards the end, was when my Islamic studies class. So they're getting the same treatment that I was getting, not treatment, the same kind of experience that I was getting in my Exploring the Bible class. We're taking apart the Quran, and I couldn't tell whether the professor was a Islam or Muslim or not, because sometimes he would sound like a Muslim, but sometimes he sounded like he wasn't. So I couldn't tell, which I think was a very good a teacher. But anyways, so I'm in a class filled with Muslims, and they're all different types of Muslims. Some of them are super strict. Some of them are more. Some of them have the head garment. Some of them didn't. It's very different. And they're arguing over their scriptures, and then I'm reading the Quran, and I'm reading stuff that I don't like about kill the infidel and da da da. And I'm sitting here thinking like, this is terrible. Like this, I don't like the Quran. This is not a good book. And then of course the Muslims in the class are trying to defend it. I don't know if you guys have heard of the Perfect Dawa, but he's one of the biggest advocates for how the. Oh yeah, he's a little bit in the community. He's been on Pine Creek's channel a couple of times. I don't think he likes to talk to him anymore because he's peace himself. But he is always about Islam is a peace and stuff like that. And so there's a lot of Muslims in the class trying to defend the Quran, even though it says that that's not what it means, type of stuff, right? And so coincidentally, I'm reading the Bible, and then I'm going home to reading my own Bible, and I'm reading stuff. I don't even remember which book of the Bible it was, but somewhere in the Old Testament where it's pretty much, the same crap about God commanding them to kill people or just da da da. And I'm sitting here, and I've read it so many times in the past that I've been reading the Bible, and then I'm sitting here, and it just clicked in my mind like, oh my God, I'm doing the same exact thing they're doing. I'm reading this like terrible crap, making excuses for it, just like they're reading this terrible crap in their book, and they're making excuses for it. And that's why one of the reasons why I really, was attracted to Pine Creek's channel, because especially his older stuff, because he literally shows you how, and I don't see how Christians don't see it, but they literally sound like every other person from their different religions. The minor details might be different, but they all sound the same. And I heard myself sound, when my brain clicked, I was like, oh crap. And when I heard myself sound like the Muslim, and I was like, oh my goodness. And then that's when I was like, okay, so why am I even, and that's when I started like, okay, well then why am I even doing this? Like, why am I choosing this book out of that book and out of that book and why am I choosing this one to try to defend? And mind you, this entire time I've been reading and praying and crying to God, like, please help me find these answers. And I'm not getting any answers. And when I'm going to this website and this YouTube video and I'm getting confused because no one's giving me the same answer. This Christian over here is saying this apologetic is saying this one, this Christian theologian is saying this, and nobody's agreeing on how to answer my questions. And of course, God's not telling me anything. And so I'm not getting help from God. And then I'm seeing myself or hearing myself sound like the Muslim. And it's just so much stuff is like, I was getting overwhelmed. And then when I'm seeing an inconsistent nature of God, because mind you, my concept of God is very similar to Rebecca from Bread of Life was. I was thinking of God as Jesus, as loving. Oh, he doesn't want to hurt anybody. Let's give each other hugs and that type of stuff. And so when I'm once again rereading the Old Testament and seeing all this crap, I'm like, wait a minute. Why is it okay for God to tell them to kill these people now? But I know good and damn well if God were to tell somebody to kill somebody now, we would be like, no, God would never do that. So why
prosecute those people?
Exactly. Like, why is his character changing? I thought God was supposed to be the same today, now, forever. But all of a sudden, we can't. Like, I can't even tell what's good or what's bad just by reading the Bible. And that's side note. This is why I think the moral argument for God is the worst one, because it's literally the one that pushed me out.
Yes.
When I realized there's no there's no way to tell what's good or bad. Because if God could do whatever he wants, then how am I supposed to know what to do? You can go kill these people and genocide over here and have rape over here and incest over here. But
yes, Cameron.
What am I supposed to do? Like, I'm over here like, I can't do this. And I remember like getting so frustrated, and I literally tried one more time to go to church, but I didn't go to my church. I went to another random church. I didn't know anybody. I just wanted to hear the word. Like, maybe God will speak to me. I'm like, okay, God, I'm giving you another chance. Like, please, like, speak to me, do something, because you're about to lose me. Like, I don't believe any of this anymore. Like, you got to do something. I remember going to the church. It was a nice church, very friendly people. But the whole time I'm sitting there listening to it, the sermon, I'm like, I realized like, I don't believe it. And it was so hard. And I remember after that, I was like praying, and I just realized, I think it was within that prayer, I realized I'm not praying to anybody. Like, I feel like I'm just praying to the walls. And this is very embarrassing. Like, wow. Like this, and then I don't remember all my mindset after that. It was a very crazy time, and I kind of went MIA. I stopped going to all the churches, and I stopped talking to a lot of people because I had to be by myself. And I did a lot more research, a lot more reading, but everything pretty much fell apart at that point. So,
Cameron, I really appreciate you coming through, man. And this is the type of interview I wanted to have. Like, when we started this, I think we had two goals. Like, if we were interviewing theists, we really wanted to understand what they believe and why, give them a platform to share their story and, get to understand each other before we get into what we may or may not agree about. And I think with atheists, we really wanted to get into what is your backstory? Hey, you're someone in the community that people interact with in chat. Can this be a platform for people to get to know each other a little bit better? And we've certainly done that. But you just touched on a thing that I still haven't found how to put it in words. But I think if we can channel this, it might be our atheist superpower. And I call it the grand asymmetry, which is that so many of us in this community, and it's not all of us, I don't want to sound, like I'm painting everybody with the same broad stroke, but a lot of us are former believers, like real hardcore former believers. And so we know that side. We read the Bible. We did the Sabbath study, and we went to church and in and out this one, and we were into all of the apologetics. And they don't understand our side. But for me, it's like what you spoke to is the genuine struggle to believe. I wanted to believe this. I was looking for answers. I didn't look to become an atheist. I wasn't trying to toss my faith in the bin. I was trying to reaffirm it so I could be a better evangelist. I was trying to answer all these burning passion questions I had as a believer. And I feel like now when we get into these conversations, they just go, "Oh, Cameron, you're an atheist," and they just write you off. Because they see Cameron the atheist. I say, you see the atheist in front of you, you don't see the Christian it took to get here. Like, they see the atheist in front of you, right? And so they can say, "Oh, you don't want to believe, you don't believe any of this is good," but they don't see that journey that you had of really wanting to believe. And that's the part to me where it's almost insulting. I hate to say that, but I feel like when I get in these conversations, people are disregarding my life experience. Like when I say I was a Christian, I was looking for answers to these questions and I couldn't find them, their basic response is, "Oh, Jay, you just weren't Christianing right. You just didn't have the right interpretation of the Bible. You weren't walking close with your walk with Jesus." Just there's always some excuse, right? That just, it's almost like they can't take that part of us seriously.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why, and I'm bringing him up again, and I know hopefully eventually you guys get him on your show, but why I get so frustrated, and I know Pine Creek did too on one of his last streams, get so frustrated with Kenny, because Kenny has this mindset that it's like for everybody, and mind you, this is a side note, I wouldn't necessarily characterize myself as an atheist, but that's irrelevant.
Sure.
For Christianity, I'm a definite atheist. I'm an atheist for Christianity, 100%. But anyways, I get so frustrated with people when with Kenny's, I'll call is when they know me or they think that they know us better than ourselves. They literally think, "Oh, because you don't have the right religion, or you didn't have the right understanding of God, or you didn't." Okay,
we got you, my one black friend.
Yeah, but if we don't have the right understanding, or we didn't read the right script, that's even why I got frustrated with Rob, because Rob has the same type of mentality, like, "Oh, you need to read this book and you need to read." Like, I shouldn't have to read a bunch of books to understand what's supposed to be God's word. Why do I need to go ahead and study all these dead languages and read all these apologists and theologians? Like, I don't care what these philosophers say. Like, who are they? Like, I don't care.
Exactly.
That's why I get mad at both the Robs and the Kennys. And I even got mad. At Rebecca, but not mad, but frustrated with her. But she's, when they have that mentality, like, if you don't believe the way that I believe, then that's why you didn't. That's why you don't believe anymore. That's why you left Christianity.
All right, that's the problem. You had the wrong theology to begin with. So you left the wrong Christianity. That's why you had a Christian. Satan's Little Helper said that's a thought-stopping technique by apologists. B.S. Lewis said #read more books. My thing with Rob is I don't like Rob. And Rob's one of the few people that I just think that as I get older, I don't have to like everybody. Do I really, as an atheist, have to sit up here and pretend that I like everybody? And I really have a lot of issues as a content creator. Like, if you started a channel, Cameron, I would be really careful about how I interact on your channel, because I know what it's like to have a channel. I'll give you an example. People are going to get triggered. I hate when mods and viewers complain about the bot in my chat, right? It is so difficult to broadcast with the guests, try to balance things with your co-hosts, try to engage meaningfully with your chat. When people start putting their, complaints and all of that stuff in my live chat, I'm like, nope, I don't want to deal with that, right? So if you started a channel, I would try not to do that to you, because I know how frustrating it is when people do that to me, right? So what I'm about to say is the worst thing you could ever say to a broadcaster. But I don't like Rob, so I'm gonna say it anyway. I think Rob should delete his channel. I think that's the most insulting, mean thing you could ever say to a YouTuber. And I know I'm being hypocritical. There's probably people feel the same way about me and they just don't say it. But I think Rob should delete his channel. And the reason is because he's all the types of awful you just talked about, of all the worst YouTubers, but he's also painfully boring and an uninteresting. He's just totally uncharismatic. And I can't, at least the other people, Rebecca's a good broadcaster. Say what you will about her. She's a good broadcaster. She's engaging. She knows how to host a good panel. Kenny's wild, but he's got a little quirky personality to him, and he'll pop his books and his T-shirts, and he'll play along. You can always, hey, can I get an amen, Kenny? And he'll go with you. To me, Rob is just like watching grass grow. I regret every moment I spent on his channel.
To me, it's not. To me, it's not even the boringness. That fine, whatever. But for me, it's just the condescension. It's like he's like that, not even just towards non-believers, but even to Christians. That's why I had to shut him down on her own channel, because he comes off as if like, you guys don't know enough, you guys haven't read enough, so I had know this stuff and need to, like, bro, like, come on now, like, is that really? I don't know. So that, I don't want to talk badly about people, but that's my issue.
Yeah, I know. You're that's nice. You're a nicer person than I am. Yeah, no.
but that's my frustration, because it's the same type of mentality. So his are different details versus the Kenny's, but it's sort of the same thing. Is like, you guys don't know it the way that I know it, or they're reading 1,000 books for old time religion, as Kenny's calls himself. But it's all the same thing, because you guys don't have the same understanding of God that I do, or the same theology. That's why you guys don't believe anymore. So you need to get like me, and then but they don't realize. We've heard it all before.
So one thing I will say about participating in a church as an atheist is, over time, I was able to build relationships with people in the church. And I could have those conversations with people in my church over lunch, after Bible study, during Bible study, and it felt great. I'm gonna be honest with you, like there was just such a great feeling of being seen, right? Of a Christian being able to say to me, hey, Jay, I really do believe this, and I'm just in a different place, but I really do understand that you were a genuine Christian and you really came to struggle, and you just can't believe this stuff, right? Yeah. Like when a Christian says that to me, I just feel like I want to cry. Like I just feel seen and loved, and like I have a friend. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to tell me I'm right, but at least validate my life experience and assume that what I'm telling you is not a gag. Right? That I'm not telling you about 25 years I spent in the church as some sort of tactic, right? So I just feel like we don't get enough of that in this apologetics community. And I think the reason is because, again, that would really cause someone to struggle. If you had to, go ahead.
Well, I just want to jump in here. There are mixed messages when you read the Bible, but some are not mixed messages. When we are being evangelized to, and we're not picking up what they're laying down, or we don't want to pick up what they're laying down because we have a different interpretation that it isn't as valuable as they say it is. That salvation isn't an actual thing.
Sure.
They've pinned a lot to it. The Christian message is embedded with language, Old Testament and New, that says, stay away from such people. Mm-hmm. Why? Because their eyes are focused on the prize, the community of God believers, the community of that is to become heaven, that sort of thing. They don't want to lose that, and that biblical message, back to front, is about preserving that. And so if you lose some dear friends, that could be why, because people are throwing them those scriptures, or they are recalling those scriptures that are in the message. What you've just described, Pocket Locker, is what I have been fortunate enough to see a lot of, and hopefully, Kamron, you keep seeing this in your life. Those people who value the relationship with other human beings, maybe not as much, right, as their walk with God, if you will, but they don't throw people away.
Right.
Jesus saying, shake the dust off of your shoes. If they reject what you say, shake the dust off of your shoes. Move on. Go find people who will listen. Here's another problem I have with Jesus. Sadly, Jesus or the writers for Jesus
Right.
didn't realize what there is to lose. That people, Christian or not, need to have other people involved in their life. We need these other friendships, these other relationships. They enrich our lives. If that person is worth sharing the gospel with, then they're worth sharing a car ride with, a day out doing whatever, volunteering. They're worth all sorts of things that the ways that you could bring them into your life. It's still worth it. It may bring them no closer to salvation, but it may not push that believer any further away from their salvation. So I think there's something really valuable there in what you said, a great lesson for us all. The relationships matter.
Yeah,
A tremendous deal.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that if there is an omniscient God, and it is the God of the Bible, that he didn't notice that. But
yeah,
I treat people, he probably doesn't care.
yeah.
Did you take notes? Because I saw you writing, or looked like you were writing stuff.
I darn sure did.
Oh, he does. Go ahead.
Oh,
Get
right
him in here. Get him in here. Let's go.
Okay. All right, Cameron. I used to do door-to-door evangelism too, so this question is about that. What did you learn doing door-to-door evangelism? And if someone comes to your door now,
Oh Lord, that's the real question.
how do you react?
I don't know what I learned, honestly. I don't know if I learned anything other than to just, because I could tell you what I was indoctrinated in the time. Obviously, for us, they were mean to us or they didn't talk to us. We took that as a good thing because that's what we should expect as, whatever. So I don't think I didn't think I learned anything, but now what I do is I avoid at all costs. Sometimes I want,
Really?
I really haven't had anybody knock on my door because I live in an apartment and it's gated, so we don't get those anyways. But I feel like if someone were to knock on my door, I probably wouldn't answer. But if I were to see somebody outside, because sometimes I see like the Mormons, riding their bicycles on the side of the road, or I'm at the park and I see them, and I always hope they'll talk to me because I'm like, you guys don't want to talk to me, but let's go. But they never approach me. But if it was to my house, I probably wouldn't go to my house. But if I'm out and about, I'll definitely would talk to them. But nobody's approached me yet. I'm waiting, but I definitely would.
So I think that it is a superpower. And for me, a lot of this comes from canvassing, right? And I put two things together. One is, I actually got in academia wanting to be a dating coach, right? And so I used to really focus my work on teaching men how to approach women, right? So I did the whole pickup artist thing where I used to take a clicker. I have one in my studio somewhere, like from the old Nick Lachey commercial with the axe effect where he'd walk by and every time a woman got the axe effect, he'd hit off his clicker. I would do that. And I'd have like 100 approach weekends when I was in college where like the goal this weekend is to approach 100 women or groups of women. And literally I would tell people it's like shooting free throws. And a lot of it was just getting used to the social interactions, trying to, get this person's phone number, get this person to go on an instant date with me, whatever it was. And then I think canvassing for politicians, I did a lot of canvassing for Cory Booker and different politicians. And it was the same thing. I took a lot of pride in being able to take a novice or somebody who had never done something like this before, be like, all right, we're going in the hood. And we're going to go knock on some doors for our candidate in this housing project. And they'd be like, all right, cool. How many of these houses? I was like, oh, no, we're going to do the entire housing project today. Like, we're going to knock out this entire building. And I would just do it, right? Just boom, just door to door, just boom. All right, if they're here, boom, they're not here, boom, slide it under the door. Oh, they're here, cool, open them, right? And it gets you this power of, I call it just being able to be rejected. You're just used to people saying no to you, slamming doors in your face, being like, get the hell out of here, right? And you just you just got to roll through it, right on to the next one. And then you get those weird experiences, right, where you knock on a stranger's door and 20 minutes later you're at their kitchen table, right, and they're fixing you something to eat and telling you about their kids, right, because every once in a while you get somebody that's ready to talk or wants to evangelize you with their gospel, right? But just crazy life experiences happen, right? And they're the few yeses that are on the other side of all those no's that you have to just burn through. And you get this like in the gym, right? Like, you know, I always used to joke to myself when I go to the gym, do I really have to lift this? It's heavy, right? like, you know?
You
I
sound
don't
like my
struggle with that,
clients.
but I understand, yeah.
Yeah, like what
You
part of
sound
me
like my
woke up
client.
this morning and was like, hey, let's just go pick up some really heavy stuff. But you know that pushing through it is when you get to, you know, post those Instagram pics and show people what you're doing on KB Fit. So I do really think that there's value in, you know, learning to accept no and working on your social skills just by putting yourself out there in a way where you're just vulnerable. You're just in this vulnerable human thing, knocking on other people's doors. There's almost nothing scarier. And I bet you, I was thinking what's weird about it is that you did that, but you're still kind of like a little camera shy. I bet you if you hadn't done that, it'd be a wrap. Like you'd never be on camera.
You'd be surprised how much things that I did that I've done and do, and I'm so nervous. When we went to door to door, I wasn't by myself. Though we would go in groups. Like we'd meet up in group, and like 2 or 3 of us would be in a group. So I was just going by myself. There was, so I'm always hiding because I was singing in the church from 3 years old all the way through whatever, and then I even was singing in the choir at school. So I'm always in a group. I'm always like, you know, I do the harmonies. I don't like to be like the spotlight. So it's a lot different when I could like, you know, be stuck
when you
in
could
the
blend.
Group. Yeah, versus just being, you know.
Yeah.
You know, that's why most of my videos on, you know, YouTube and Instagram, I'm not sitting there talking. You know, I just put the camera and I just do what I do. I don't have to sit there and engage.
I see. Very interesting. So would you'd be more likely to have a YouTube channel where you just made videos where you could give commentary, you didn't have to be on camera?
Well, that's what my videos are. There's no commentary though. It's literally just I post just workout videos, so I don't have to talk.
Oh, I see. Go ahead, my one black friend.
Yeah.
For Hillary's emails in the comment section, I'm wondering if Hillary's emails was in the Olympic Sales Club as I was, because Hillary's emails went door to door selling greeting cards from 8 to 10. Me too. Only was like more like from 7 to 14 or something like that, or maybe even.
No Name said too. No Name said he did insurance door to door.
He did insurance door to door. Yeah, ran for office, sold cars for 16 years. Yep. That's the type of jobs. I worked at Guitar Center. I literally sold drums I worked in the drum department for the same Guitar Center where I bought my first drum set. I mean, you want to talk about a job that just came naturally to me, right? It was so easy to sell people stuff there. I was like, no, this was my happy place as a child, and I'm going to make sure it's yours. Right?
Yeah,
go ahead.
So I have my original question, and I want to change it a little bit. So if you could answer both the original question and the revised question. When you had to talk about faith after things in your faith got really rocky, what sort of advice were you telling people? And a separate question, knowing what you know now, what would you go back and say to yourself and to maybe 1 or 2 of those other people?
So you mean when my faith was getting messed up?
Yeah, when you started that religious studies class and it became evident to you, things weren't the way that you had thought they were. The Bible wasn't what you thought it was, right?
And like I said, I didn't really talk to people about my doubts, although in the beginning, initially, I didn't bring this up. So I'm going to try to bring this up really fast. And this is where I know somebody mentioned the comments again. Like I said earlier, they probably missed it. Jamie Russell, he's a current still 7th Adventist that's in the community that's always in the chats. I think he's probably big on Ellen G. White. As you know, 7th Adventist, that's one of the things is that Ellen G. White is one of the prophets, whatever. I never seriously or cared to read her books. I mean, I probably read passages here and there because I had to, but I never took it because I never thought it was important. But I remember when I was, you know, on my research and stuff, obviously I was researching, one of the things I researched was LNGY, and I remember having questions about her legitimacy in terms of like plagiarism and stuff like that, and bringing it up to one of my church friends, and he, it's funny, anytime I would bring anything up like this, it was kind of like, oh, I'll get back to you. Like, oh, it's not true, I'll get back to you. But then nobody would ever get back to me. And that was when it came to certain stuff like that, when I had questions. But so initially, before it got too bad, where it was like when I was really doubting in the beginning, when I was kind of just like, bringing things up, it was sort of like, I'll get back to you, but nobody would get back to me. And then I could sense some uncomfortability. I think one of the times I was talking to one of my cousins and about the different religions and about how do we know which one's the right one. And his analogy, which I think is flawed now, but at the time I thought it was good, was there's a lot of different detergents to wash your clothes. There's only going to be one that's your favorite, the one that works the best. But I think that's a very poor analogy. So hopefully that answered your question for that. But I didn't have too much engagement during my, falling out of religion part. What I would tell myself now, I don't even know what I would tell myself now, because I would never, the me back then would never in a million years even expect this version of me to exist. So I wouldn't even know what to tell that person, let alone how that person would receive it. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're so different. It's like this is not even anything of what you would, I don't even know how to describe it. I wouldn't even know what to say at all. Like, I wouldn't listen to me now. I would be like, no, you're Satan. Like, I would think I'm Satan right now.
Do you think the isolation helped you sort things through? If you didn't have the benefit of the isolation, would it have been more difficult, or is it possible that you might still be religious? Because if people are constantly surrounding you and you can't get a moment to process things, right, without the outside influences coming in, would that have made things more difficult?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. You know what? Damn, I don't know. I think the result probably would have ended the same, but I think it would have taken a lot longer. Okay. I mean, it took me 3 years. It was a 3-year process from the beginning of my religious studies to the end of my senior year in college. But so I think the process would have taken a lot longer. But I think because of all the different, there's too many issues that needed to be fixed. No matter how much I was still going to church. It's like what I mean was, when I separated myself from those conversations, but I was still active in the church. I was still, like I said, going door to door. I was still going. I would go to the seminar they have, because 7th Adventists are really big with prophecy. So I would go to these Daniel and Revelation seminars. Like, I was still doing all those things, but none of the answers were really getting. I feel like all of the apologetics were like surface level, and nothing was getting to like the deepness that I needed. So I don't think it would have helped per se. I think I might have just pretended longer, because there was like a little period of time where I tried to pretend or try to fake myself out, or try to pretend like it's true, and then maybe I'll continue to believe it. But I think the result would have been the same, because I don't like living with cognitive dissonance. Like, it was too much. So, and that's the reason why. That's why I don't know how Jay does it, honestly. Like how he still plays for church, because right when I was about to leave my church, like the pastor of my church, he wanted me to play the drums for the church, and that happened.
Another drummer.
Literally right before my deconversion, and it was like, damn it, and I wanted to do it, and I was like, man, I still want to play. Like, but for me, I couldn't, because I feel like for myself, like, I know you can compartmentalize, but I can't, because I love my church friends. Like, I love my church friends, my family. I love them, close to them, but I couldn't sit there and participate in something where I'm totally like, this is BS. Like, I can't do it. I can't. Like, I would love to, because I wanted to play the drums, and I was like so disappointed, because I love music and I love to play, but I can do it.
To be honest, I felt that way. I didn't know if I could do it. So there was a time. So one thing I can say is I deconverted while I was playing. Like, I kind of didn't start playing, so it was a little bit easier in that regard. And then for a long time, I became an atheist Christian. Like, I just was full blown. I'm still a Christian. Most people say culturally Christian, right? I still identified as a Christian. That's the main difference. My beliefs between then and now haven't changed that much. I just used to identify as a Christian and now less so, right? But even then, it was like, oh, this is all, they don't get it. They haven't, but I looked at it as like privilege. They didn't have the opportunity to study theology the way I did. They didn't have the upbringing I did. So I shouldn't like look down my nose at people. I should just understand, they understand Bible differently than I do, and I'm just a drummer right now. And then what really got me to stop playing at this one particular church was they got too funny with my money. And I got sick of that. And then also I was excited to take over as the musical director because that was like the plan I had with the current musical director, and they ended up bringing in somebody else, and I was like, nope, and y'all not paying me right amount. So anyway, make a long story short, when I ended up at this other church, it was just like they put a flyer on my door. I was kind of like, let me see if they need a drummer or whatever. And I wasn't sure how the whole thing would go. And so I don't want to make it seem like I had like this grand idea or I sat back and I was like, oh, this is going to be great. I really didn't know, you know. I just auditioned, I went through the motions, and then when I started playing with them, I just like really loved the church, and I was like, I really like this. And then over time, it kind of dawned on me. Like I realized, Jay, you're a professional evolutionary biologist, but one, that means the people you get to interact with in church, you don't get to interact with these people in the classroom. These people are never coming to your class. Just forget about that. That's never going to happen, right? And then also, the flip side is I really don't like the way my colleagues see this. The way my colleagues see this, and I tried to kind of explain this during my conversation with Rebel Nazarene yesterday, which is put 100 evolutionary biologists in a room. I would be shocked if 3 of them are willing to talk to young earth creationists or flat earthers, right? Because they've just decided these people are immune to the evidence. We have plenty of evidence. They're not worth our time. And I hate to, most people don't get this about scientists. It's not our job, right? The job of most working scientists is to do science, publish papers, teach at the university. We are busy AF, and we do not have time to debate young earth creationists, right? I just happen to be in a fortunate position where, since so much of my work with evolutionary biology is about evolutionary theory, and so much of my professional career is also education and outreach. Like I'm an evolution, within my specialty as a science, like education and outreach is a big part of who I am as a scientist in a way it isn't for most people. You see what I'm saying? So for me, I was able to like kind of wrap it up as like, oh, this is great education outreach because I get to interact with young earth creationists, people who don't accept evolution. And again, my critique of my colleagues is most of them don't, right? And they don't think it's important, right? But I'm fortunate now, I'm teaching with Rob Pennock. He does the whole philosophy of science thing. He teaches the book called Tower of Babel, which is all about understanding why young earth creationism or intelligent design creationism isn't science, right? He was an expert witness at Kitzmiller versus Dover. So when he sees me doing this stuff, he actually goes, Jay, what you're doing is super important, keep doing it, right? Matter of fact, he just brought me a whole bunch of new equipment for the studio. So I'm lucky in that regard, right? But it wasn't some grand plan. I started playing drums. I loved it. I found myself at a church that I love. Also, it made me part of the community, right? Believe it or not, science is very isolating. Being a grad student is very lonely. And so playing church in the community twice a week got me out of the house, right? Made me part of a band, and we were gigging, and my students saw me a lot differently. A lot of my students would like see me in church. You know, a bunch of my students went to the same college ministry, so they would treat me totally differently after they saw me playing drums, right? So it just kind of was like, oh, this is a great opportunity. I should keep doing this. But I want to grant you, it's weird, and all the figuring out the compartmentalization and all of that, it took time. It wasn't like I figured it all out ahead of time. I just ended up in it, and I was like, oh, this is cool. I should keep doing it.
I get it. Well, I don't get it.
Right,
I get
but you see where I'm coming from.
I don't get it. Yeah. I couldn't even do it now. Like I couldn't even do it now because I disagree with their. It's not that I just don't believe it. At that time, I was just like, I disagree with it. Now, more than I don't disagree with it, even I disagree with with the whole theology of it. Like so for me, I feel like I don't know. It's weird. I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. Although, like on my own time, I listen to some gospel music, not a lot, like very rarely.
Sure, sure. All right, yeah, I appreciate that. There's still some bangers.
Oh hell yeah! Oh hell yeah! Like there's some people that I listen to. Like I used to listen to Fred Hammond, Kirk Franklin,
Sure, sure.
Mary, all that shit. So
right.
You know, I even listen to Christian rap. Like so.
Oh
whatever,
yeah, me too.
Yeah. So so it is what it is. But and that's different because I can do that on my own time. But I don't want to be in an environment where I don't want people to think I'm agreeing with this because I don't agree with this.
And my thing is, it's the Daryl Davis effect, right? That guy, that Pine Creek shows, he's like the black guy who can go to white supremacy. I feel like I could do it, but I would tell people again, it's just not for everybody. And for most people, like if I ever got to like counter-apologize to my mom or whatever, I would tell her never go to church again. Like it just, for most people, you need to just hard cut this off, and just move on with your life and get as far away from this as you possibly can. I mean, it's the same thing. Like I was a weed head, right? And being a marijuana law reformer, I worked with the police, right? And I used to tell my group that, like, yeah, I'm never gonna snitch on you, but I might literally bring the chief of police in here to talk to you because I meet with him regularly and I think he can actually, let you guys know what's going on with the law in a way that can help keep you safe, right? And so I would play that game, but it meant that was the advantage to me. The advantage of it was, well, the chief of police knows who I am. He's going to be one less unfamiliar face if anything ever happens. And he comes out to meetings for my organization and he's willing to talk to my students. And I get a lot of those benefits. But yeah, I got to go in there and be willing to, break bread with a guy who I know who is going to arrest my friends. And same thing, he's got to be willing to break bread with me knowing I got a phone full of drug dealers. Right? Because that was my job. Yeah. And I did the same thing when I was preparing for law, right? I wanted to be go into law and politics, and I worked in a prosecutor's office, right? And it used to be my job to prosecute people who violated the law and have weed offenses, and it was really tough. But again, I was looking at it as I want to one day have the prosecutorial discretion to say it's not in our best interest to prosecute these crimes, but in order to get that job, I got to be trained, I got to get in the system, right? And so that was what I was doing, and I loved it. I loved it because, again, people knew it, people got that. It was a really great opportunity, and that just came with the territory, right? So yeah, I'm weird. I'm built like that, and I realized that not everybody is. I want to touch on something else you talked about, which is value. You talked about being an anti-theist, and the reason I'm an anti-theist in that way is because it's anti-humanist, right? I've really taken up kind of being a humanist. I'm not a speciesist. I don't want to fall off the philosophical bandwagon here. I don't think humans are like better than other species. I just think we are humans, which means we're more closely related to other humans, which means naturally we need to be concerned about human matters. And to me, like you spoke about, this idea of just, I'm a sinner, I'm not worthy, I deserve, eternal separation from the favorable presence of the Lord, whatever that means to you, right? Can you just talk a little bit about that, and especially why I had you on, which is because I wanted you, me, and my one black friend as black men. All right, let's just put our cards on the table. I wanted to have a conversation as three black men about how this is not good for what we are dealing with in the world as black men and in our community beyond that. But certainly, go ahead.
Excuse me.
Well, I don't even understand the question.
Sorry. The question is just, can you talk more about your feelings about the whole, or maybe your journey with the value thing, like realizing that this Christian thing is sort of bad for my mental health, right? It's making me put myself down. It's telling me I'm not good. Because you talked about that earlier, and I want to circle back to it.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Like when you're in a Christian mindset, which you kind of raise that you're depraved, you're no good, you're a sinner, you're wrong, you're, all these negative things. You're just the lowest of the low, and that you need God to save you. You need Jesus to save you. And so one of the biggest reasons why, I don't like Christianity now, I'm an anti-Christian, I guess you could say, and I kind of despise it. I think it kind of like, it's toxic to our mind, to the mindset, in terms of making us feel like that, to make us think that we're not good. Like, I would never want to raise my kid to think that, you know, there's something wrong with them. Like, you're just born and you're born in sin. You're just born and you're just already messed up. Sorry, you're just trash. Like, no, I don't think that's mentally a good thing to have. I think it messes kids. I think it messes up with even adults. Why so many people as adults, even if they're not like participating in church, we're all, especially in America, we're all in this Christianized country where, you know, people are like loose Christians or whatever. They might identify as Christians. They might not go to church, but they still, you know, hold on to Christian values. So they think of themselves as bad or not good. And, you know, I just think it's not a healthy mindset to have. I think it's terrible. I think it messes up the way people view each other. Like I said, that's why I get frustrated with Kenny and Rob. Same thing with that. Is because
I was gonna say, B.S. Lewis said he's going to find a white power atheist chat. B.S. Lewis, those are just called atheist chats.
Right. Right.
That's unfair. That's
I'm
unfair.
just messing. I'm just messing. But one thing the reason I think this is so important, right, is the thing is, when I was watching that thing last night about, you know, the joy of slavery to Jesus, right, that was my family. You know, that is my family. I just know they would be amen and hallelujah-ing all of that. And then on top of it, right, like what they would do is, you know, since I come from generations of ministers, I could see them giving that sermon, right? I could literally see my grandfather giving that sermon and thinking it was just so clever and so good. And one thing that I've noticed in my own family, especially with my grandparents, and it bothers me the most with them, is they're just so esteemed because of their faith, right? They're put on this pedestal of, not only are you guys great people, you are just truly better than the rest of us because you're holy and you don't sin and you lead the church. And to their credit, they're legit, right? They don't do it for the praise of people, and they wash the feet and visit the sick and, you know, donate to the charities and the shelter. And to be honest, my grandparents don't make money off their church. It's they spend the majority of their retirement that they earn for their hard work their whole lives trying to keep the lights on for a small congregation. So, you know, there's no gospel of prosperity, flag-waving phoniness about it. But to me, that makes it even worse, right? Because it's like, you're the true believers. At least the other people are like, well, there's a gag, you know, hey, let's make this money off these suckers. You know, to me, y'all are the suckers, right? Like, y'all, let's be clear about this. You know, you're the people that buy it hook, line, and sinker and are dedicating your lives to this. But
that's not fair.
Go ahead.
That's not fair of you to say.
Why you say that?
So, sure, your grandparents are looking for what so many of us look for, which is purpose. We from an early age, and I mean a very early age, you understand that what you do matters. As you grow, like my neighbor's daughter just learned to ride a bike without training wheels. I knew it would happen while I was out of town, so she sent the video out, and I was amazed. I sent her daughter a message. I'm so proud of you, because I was working with her on that. Well, what she learned is what she does matters, right? She kept practicing. Right. And me, I'm guiding her, right? I'm helping her. I'm walking alongside her. What I did, my contribution to her success mattered. And there were other people who did the same thing I did, advice from her mother, her dad, her little sister cheering her on. She got to that goal. For your grandparents, being shepherds, if you will, of the people at that church, it matters. The purpose of their life now, you probably heard them say it. Well, I've lived my life. They're still alive. People who are alive say this. I lived my life. Like, you're still here.
Right.
But for them, the greatest thing they have to give those people is what? Their time. Themselves. Look, we realize it's because I have an uncle like this. It's money out of his pocket to support his church, but he sees a need that he can fill. and he's not going to ignore it. He's not going to spend all the time working on it. I just saw him a couple of weeks ago. He's not spending all his time working on his truck and hanging out in the kitchen with his wife, talking about their kids and grandkids. There's more to it than that. And for your grandparents, there's more to it than what you get about what they're doing.
Right. So go ahead.
No, I'm just saying their sense of purpose is very defined.
Yeah,
It's not. Well, hold on. It's not just that it's defined. It's in motion.
Yes.
And I really want you to appreciate it that way. They don't need to be Kenneth Copeland, where all it is just, let me see how much I can. How outrageous and ridiculous can I be, and people still give me their money every week?
Right.
That's Dave Chappelle's job.
Right. Yeah, seriously.
It shouldn't be a minister's job, right? Somebody trying to tell you there's a guy. It shouldn't be that job. It should be Dave Chappelle. He should, Dave, that's funny. Thanks for making me laugh.
So my thing is, I actually completely agree with you, right? And that's why I love them, right? I think they're great people. It's why the whole, you were hurt by Christians, you must have been raised by some bad Christians, doesn't work. And to be honest, they're on the list of just best people I know on the planet. You see what I'm saying? Genuinely. But that's the problem that I think we're getting at is I'm trying to, how do you, and this is I don't have the answer, and I don't expect you guys maybe have the answer, but my frustration is how do we start to speak to this tension? Because on one hand, we want to esteem them because they're having a purpose and they're making a difference in people's lives. And most of us would say they're objectively making the world a better place, right? But at the same time, they still buy hook, line, and sinker into this, you are dirty and you are but filthy rags, right? And
there's the harm. There's the harm.
Yeah. And that's the part that I want to be able to say, hey, look, I want to esteem this great behavior, but I want to be able to somehow get at these things that I think are harmful. The other thing that bothers me about it is when I was growing up, that was beautiful. Like the story was God loved Moses and Edith, and he put them together as two teenagers in love, and they built this godly family, and they found a way to just work hard and get us upwardly mobile, and we've been trying to do our best since, and whatever. It's a lovely fucking story, right? But I started to realize the saddest part about it is that, and my grandparents' names are Edith and Moses, is that Edith and Moses won't give Edith and Moses any of the goddamn credit. Like when I look back now, right, when I look back when I was growing up, it was, God, this is God working in their lives and we're such a blessed family. But now I want to be like, yo, y'all really did that. Like with the whole home and the church and everything, like y'all did that. You know what I mean?
Look what filthy rags can do while God does nothing. Right?
Yeah.
You need, if you're going to reach them, that's how you do it. You have to show them, like, look, this was really you. Because if you ask God to change the color of a traffic light, it won't happen under God's power. It'll just be like, well, there's settings. There's probably a lady downtown who might be able to flip a switch and make it go green a little faster or red a little faster, but God will do nothing.
Yeah, and they've moved on stuff. So there's just two quick stories I want to get in about them. One is like I had a gay cousin growing up, right? And that relationship became strained quickly. You know what I mean? Because they just couldn't handle that.
Do you still have this cousin?
I still have this cousin. She's still gay.
This is weird to say. Like, what happened?
Well, the thing that happened is they like got on board with it. And so I remember like even since COVID, like she lives in California with her partner, and she flew out to California to visit them, and flew from California to Jersey to visit them and everything. So they've come a long way. They've come a super long way with technology. But even right now, I knew when this whole COVID thing started, we were able to keep them home for a long time. But we knew once they got vaxxed and boosted, they would go back, and they did, and they just both recently got diagnosed with COVID, right? So this is one of those things where I literally felt like there's a really good chance I lose my grandparents because of their very real sacrifice to a very unreal God, right? And to their credit, they're, like I said, they're vaxxed, they're boosted, but man, you want to talk about something you're still super nervous about, and it happened. And it's weird because it's like, I knew I had to accept this because I knew I couldn't stop them from taking this risk. But this is exactly the type of thing where, and I'm gonna be honest with you, COVID is a motivator for me. I probably wouldn't be doing any of this stuff I do if it wasn't for COVID. COVID was really where I was like, all right, I'm done. I can't take the anti-science anymore. I can't take we're not gonna do the right thing. I just can't. When there's a real pandemic, it's like we don't have playtime. Playtime's over. Like that's when I said playtime's over, right? So it's tough. It's tough. But thanks for letting me vent about that event. I want to make sure I get us out of here a little bit before 5:30. So we've got probably about 15, 20 minutes left. I want to make sure we get to whatever my one black friend has wanted to cover, and then also any thoughts Kamron has. And before I forget, thank you guys so much in the chat. You guys have been incredible as always. The show is very blessed for our audience. I feel like even people don't think we're the biggest channel, but I'm like, man, if you look at the activity, man, all of our viewers are power users, man. So we appreciate that. Also, check out KB Fit 2.0 if you need some fit-spiration or some good coaching and you want more from the man Kamron. KB Fit 2.0 on Instagram. All right, my one black friend, I'm gonna give you the floor.
All right, this may be terribly uncomfortable for you, Kamron.
Uh-oh.
So answer. Yeah, you don't feel compelled to answer it. Okay. You absolutely don't have to answer this question. Looking back at those hurtful prayers that you prayed, did they actually bring you any comfort? That's question number one. Question number two, what other things actually brought you comfort when you were upset about your sister's passing?
So when you're referring to hurtful prayers, you are referring to the prayers that I prayed when, like, around before she died or right after she died?
Actually, either. The reason I ask this is often things that people go through, we don't know. Like, we have these listeners who are very active in the chat. Someone may be dealing with, or even down the line, what you dealt with. And they may handle it in the very same way. And perhaps with the benefit of your experience, they handle it the best possible way. In a way, in effect, you're giving them tools, right? Unbeknownst to you, today you give them some tools on how they can work with what's going on in their own lives.
Okay, I think I understand, maybe, hopefully. So to answer your question, my prayers, neither of my prayers before nor after. Well, okay, let me be more clear. My prayers before she passed, because it was only a couple of days. She went to the hospital, was having seizures, and then a few days later she passed. So within those few days before she had passed, what brought me comfort wasn't necessarily the prayers, at least on my own, but maybe the prayers together as a family. And since they seemed very confident that prayers would work, I guess that brought me comfort. That there was hope that she would make it out, and she didn't, unfortunately. The prayers afterwards, none of those helped me at all. Not at all. What did, and I actually went through very deep depression my first year of high school. My freshman year was a terrible year for me. But what brought me comfort wasn't any of my terrible prayers to God. It was actually my friends, humans that I don't have to question whether they're here or not. My friends, they actually gave me, they were there for me. Because I went through my freshman year, pretty much didn't talk to anybody. I was kind of like, I didn't want to talk to anybody. I was like, everyone just leave me alone. So I was kind of just like, and finally, before my freshman year was over, I had like 2 or 3 of my close friends finally approached me. They hated to see me hurting so much. They didn't know what to say or do, but they wanted me to know that I was there for them. And they just gave me a hug. That's all. And then I just pretty much broke down crying. And for me, it was humans that gave me the comfort more than anything else. Hopefully that answered your question.
Okay, yeah, it did.
Yeah, I think that's really important. So quickly, I would just say too, like, don't go through these things alone. It reminds me of the right wing gets triggered sometimes. I remember one time it was because there was a great YouTube video or TikTok or whatever of a kid who had just come out as trans, And, all their classmates were like celebrating them and hugging them until they started the conspiracy that, the kids are going to be coming out as trans just to get attention, right? And I was like, no, scumbags. People are generally crap. But every once in a while, they recognize here's another human being that is going through something difficult or just revealed something about them that's very personal. And they're celebrating that person for, sort of socializing their vulnerability, right?
Courage.
The courage, exactly, the courage to do so. And so that's where I say, even if you are by yourself, reach out on social media, do a Facebook post, do an Instagram post or something, let people know what you're going through, because people will want to gather around you and let you know, hey man, I don't know what to say, but we've all dealt with loss. I'm here if you want to talk, and I still think you're great, and there's light at the end of the tunnel here, and that's important. So yeah, I would say that, and you spoke to that. Even if I didn't believe in the prayers, it was great to be around family and to be together. Then I needed my friends to pick me up as I'm dealing with something hard. It doesn't give you control of the situation, but it lets you feel like you're not going through it alone.
But back then, I believed in the prayers because I was so Christian.
Sure.
I just, what brought me the comfort was the confidence of my family around me, believing that somehow our prayers would do something.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I like what RCA Randy said in the chat. I've never heard of anyone doing it before other than myself, but actually praying to God in a mean way. But like I said, as a Seventh-day Adventist, since I was never afraid of hell. And I guess I believe God loved me, that he wasn't going to strike me down. I had no fear to talk shit at the time. Because
he hasn't done it yet.
Exactly. Yeah. So
actually, it's funny you mentioned that. I felt like, coming from generations of ministers, I always felt like a very weird relationship with God, where I had angry prayers with God. And also just some joking times. Like I remember, because I'm very like profane and stuff. So every time I'd be sitting there smoking weed, Jesus, what the fuck was going on with these kids today? Lord, have mercy. I don't know what's going on. Right? Because it was Jesus. Like if I could talk unfiltered with the homies, why can't I talk unfiltered with Jesus? You know what I'm saying? Like, so again, it's in my own personal space. But yeah, it'd be weird. Like if you really heard my inner prayers, it'd be like, Jesus, Lord, I don't know what these motherfuckers are doing today. I don't know. Because you're just smoking weed with Jesus. That's how it goes sometimes. Go ahead, my one black friend. I want you to get a couple more questions in there.
Not so different than speaking to yourself, is it?
Yeah.
The astonishing revelation that a person is now allowed to openly say a prayer in school. It is a good thing I'm not 11 years old, because I would not have the self-control to not ask, who are you talking to? Repeatedly. Is your phone on speaker?
Right.
I would have to chime in
call today
in a way that was going to be perceived as disrespectful, because I think that behavior can be, especially since it flies in the face of Jesus, who famously said, don't do such things. Go into your inner room and pray. Don't pray in front of people so they can see you praying, see your false righteousness, right? While trying to make things easier, they're only making them more difficult and appearing hypocritical while doing it, without knowledge that that's what's going on, which is the real shame of it. Well, since you teach fitness, what are some foods people absolutely should not eat? Asking for a friend.
One thing that
and whatever you say, I'm going to Waffle House. Whatever you tell me, I'm still going to Waffle House after this podcast.
It's just skepticism, healthy skepticism, Cameron. That's all.
I feel you. Well, the first thing, it's not necessarily eat. This is a drink, and this is one of the first things that I gave up when I started taking care of my health. Hopefully, it's not too challenging, but I would say give up soda. If you can give up soda, please, everybody, give up soda. I don't even care if it's Sprite, but that's just I have to be honest. Like,
yeah. That's one of my weaknesses. Soda. And what I went to is I'm a soda drinker because it's like liquid candy, right? And so for me, what I went to is I drink water throughout the day, and I'll allow myself to have one soda treat at the end of the day. But yeah, I probably need to cut it all the way out or cut it back even further because it's so easy, right? It's liquid. It's just so easy to consume. It's just yeah.
And
That's a good one.
in terms of the food, I'm not going to get into details in terms of my particular nutrition way I do things because there's very controversial. But I will just say, in general, and you're going to Waffle House, so I don't know how you're going to accomplish this, but avoid as much as possible sugar. Sugar, out of all the things I can get into details with, the one thing that I would just universally tell everybody if they could minimize is sugar. Sugar is the worst. Is the worst. That's
cheap
all I say
carbs,
about that.
especially refined sugars, right? Or whatever it is, the processed sugars.
Processed sugars. Now, from fruit, I wouldn't necessarily say give up fruit. I'm talking about, like you said,
right. And you're not saying never consume sugar ever. You're trying to say like that should be the part of your diet you watch the most, you consume the least, you try to make sure you're not getting excess.
I can't wait for this answer.
Go ahead.
Well, sort of to know, TJ. Honestly, I would say the only sugar that I would say to have would be from the fruit. I would say if you could avoid, if you could avoid at all costs, it would be ideal. Obviously, I wouldn't expect anyone. Well, some people are able to do it, but majority of people.
I'm thinking sugars as a class of carbohydrates, right?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, as a class, get them from the fruits, get them from the natural.
Right, get them from the fruits, get them from the vegetables. You're not saying That's all I'm saying. You're not saying like. Right.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like I
said,
you're saying
you don't need to keep a large bag of Jolly Ranchers under your desk at all times, like I do. Exactly. That's what you're saying. Let's just keep it personal, right?
Yeah, and somebody put Satan's little helper in the chat. Obviously, fruit juice. Like I don't drink juice, so if you can get rid of fruit juice, soda, all that stuff, but sugar is probably one of the most toxic things we could consume. So that's the one thing that I would say. Go ahead.
All right. So this is going back to sodas. Would you say would you include diet sodas in
I would include
zero sugar item?
Yeah.
You would. Okay. Now, Cameron, what is the benefit? Because I rarely will drink, and I mean rarely. It's probably down to maybe 3 times a year will I drink a soda that has sugar, like the Faygo Red Pop. It's effing delicious.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Candy.
That's
candy.
Yeah, that's my thing. Yeah, exactly. But, I'm a candy guy. It's my weakness.
So let's just say that
candy and toxic women.
For me, that's not something I struggle with, nor is toxic women. But what is the benefit of giving up even diet soda from your perspective?
From my perspective, when it comes to diet soda, there's so many other crap that they put in there that you might as well just be drinking regular soda. From my opinion, with the artificial sweeteners, I just don't think. I think it's just all a bunch of, I don't say crap, but I don't know if should I be unfiltered or should I be?
No, it's just like it's like a shift, right? Like a lot of times what they're doing to say there's no sugar in this is they're giving you unhealthy amounts of salts and other weird chemicals to give you the sweet without the sugar. So you might as well just go with a little bit of sugar in moderation, drink you a little can of Sprite, and move on with your life. And also, it'll give you that false sense of confidence. Oh, this is zero sugar, so you'll end up drinking more of it than you would otherwise.
I have noticed in the last, really, carbonation stretches your stomach too, especially if you already overeat. Well, Satan's little helper, I don't know if you saw me stand up. But it appears what you say could have some
validity to it.
I'm not saying you're wrong.
Oh, no.
But you might be right. Okay, so I'm almost 50, and I have a goal of making it to 104 years old.
Okay,
and Cameron, let's just say maybe if I really rein stuff in, I can actually do it.
The truth is, it's hard, right? Discipline is hard, right?
Not all discipline is hard, because look, I'll say this for myself. I'm someone who did these two things. I went on a juice fast for 75 days. Wow. So I had to make fresh fruit juices. I don't do that to yourself, by the way. And I did it. It was. Wow. It was not even a struggle. I went on the Atkins diet. This is like year.
Yeah, back when everybody was going on Atkins. Yeah, I remember that.
Exactly. I went on the Atkins diet. And after the first 3 days, it was a breeze. And I think I did it for like 90 days and lost 100 pounds. I slept better. I looked pretty darn good, if I have to say. I was wearing like pants that were almost the size I was in middle school and stuff like that. So it was fun, but my bad habits came rushing back to me. So it's not that I don't have any discipline. I just don't have any long-term.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So that's another thing that I'll mention too. What I tell a lot of my clients and people that I work with is when people go on these extreme diets like Atkins or keto, or they try to do something drastic, or they try to give up sugar. Like if you do something completely drastic, I don't think it's going to last long term. When I work with people, I try to make lifestyle change something that you can keep up forever, not something that's so crazy where you're going to start craving this or craving that, and then it's like, okay, and just start stuffing your face, because that's the piece of purpose. So I try to, when I help people, it's in a way that's going to do it in a more efficient and effective way that you're not, that eliminates that desire to go back to the old ways.
You'd also recommend gradual change, right? Change things gradually.
Definitely. Little. That's what I'm saying. Everything's gradual. I'd never suggest anybody just completely wipe anything out. I always do the gradual things. Like if there's something you want to get rid of in your diet, start with lessening them out. If you eat something every single day, like say you drink soda every single day, I'll be like, okay, try to do 1 day without soda. Just one day. Try to pick any day of the week. Let's just try to go 1 day without soda. And if
that's
we do that in a couple of weeks, okay, now let's try to go 2 days. Just choose any 2 days without soda. And it's kind of like that. It's like a gradual thing. So whatever it is, I try to work with people to try to eliminate things and then try to replace those unhealthy habits with a healthy habit and switch it up that way. So
yeah, that's been a general thing with the motivation for me lately, is just doing the one thing at a time. Even when I'm doing this broadcast, it's like I don't have to put a whole show together. It's just, oh, I'm just making the event. I'm just putting on my robe, and you just take it one thing at it. Because if you think about the whole thing, it's too much. It's too much. So you're just doing the one little. Yeah, when I'm cleaning my room, I hate cleaning my room. I'm just clearing off this table real fast, right? I just got to clear off my bed real quick. You know what I mean? And then eventually you do enough of those and you go, oh, look at this. But yeah, really great. All right, we got to wrap up. So I want you guys to, my one black friend, whatever you want to do. It's all yours.
All right. So for you, Cameron, really not for you and Hillary's emails. For me, I'm going to go, I can't weigh myself. I don't have a scale. I'm on the road. I've been on the road for like 5 months.
Sure, legit
I'm probably going to go on the road for another 6 or something like that. We'll see. If you see stones behind me, I'm probably at my house, in front of my fireplace. So I'm going to try, starting now, to give up soda. For the next 30 days.
What about gradual? Did you just miss the whole speech about being gradual?
So this is, what is this? This is 20 fluid ounces. The reason why I didn't say gradually is I had one of my staff members. She and I had a 5-day challenge to have no sugar, and we both did it. Okay. So that was instant, right? I didn't need, like, well, let's just ease into it. No, it's like, let's just start. Okay. So
all right. You think, we'll see. You think you're ready for 30 days? We're here for the torture.
I have no idea. So I'm gonna give it a shot. If Pine Creek could do a sub 1,000 calorie diet, then I think, and he's doing it long term. He's really putting the time in. He's enjoying himself, which actually I think is the key.
I'll be honest. I'm an intermittent faster, and I've been doing it so long. I don't even think about it anymore. I rarely even consider it my diet. It just means there's a window of time I eat, normally in the evening, and then I don't eat the rest of the day. It's funny. And because I do it so much, if I ever want to break it, I don't even think about it. Like if somebody's like, yo, Jay, you want to grab lunch and like pig out on a buffet? I'm like, sure. Because I do it, I never do that. So I'm not worried about it. Right? You see what I'm saying? Like if you fast every day, breaking it one day, you're like, I don't care. If I want to eat breakfast, if I get, my point is people just go, well, what do you do if you get hungry or whatever? I'm like, I just eat. Because if you're disciplined about it, it's like people who work out 6 days a week and then they have a cheat day. They're not worried about that cheat day. That's what it's there for. Like they were disciplined. You know what I'm talking about, Cameron? Like they've been disciplined. They got their day. They do whatever they do and they move on. What are your cheats? That'll be my last question. What are your guilty pleasures when you when you're
guilty
not
pleasure.
being disciplined, what do you
Oh,
get
yeah.
into?
See, I don't like to talk about this, but well, yeah, screw it. So I'll just say I'm plant-based. So one of my guilty pleasures is Blaze. I don't know if you guys have heard of Blaze Pizza. I just found it out like a couple months
Oh
ago. I didn't know.
yeah.
But
Oh,
they have vegan cheese and the whole thing, so I'm able to get pizza from. That's one of my guilty pleasures. But I don't like to eat it because there's so much crap that it's like I can't eat anything else to stay within my caloric
right, right,
cap. It's
right. But
like
you
I
just
can
gotta
only eat
have
like
it when the yeah. Once in
yes.
a while, you
So
just gotta have it.
yeah,
Okay.
it's mostly my fiance though. She likes it more than me. So when she wants, I'm like, damn it, okay, we'll get it. So then I'm like, okay, that means I can't eat this or that. So yeah. And then my other one for dessert, they have a lot of ice cream now, and it used to be in Jerry's, but there's this new one called like Wonder Milk that they have, and it's like cookies and cream. It's my favorite flavor, cookies and cream. So they have this Wonder Milk
Okay.
non-dairy ice cream that's like totally delicious. So yeah, that's my other.
Those are your and do you have a cheat day or how do you do that?
Yeah, usually Saturdays. Even though it's a cheat day, so the way I do my cheat days is that I still try to stay within like the calories. It's just I know that I'm not going to get on my macros, so I know I'm going to be short on protein, I'm going to be short on fat, but I know I'm not going to be short on carbs, unfortunately. So I try to still stay within a general range of calories, even though I'm cheating. If that makes any sense.
Got you. Go ahead, my one black friend. Let you wrap us up.
A couple things you said, because now I'm thinking we're now doing the show we could have done all along. and maybe
Episode 2, yeah.
When we have 50,000 viewers, we'll circle back, Cameron. Be prepared for that.
Okay.
But you said you're plant-based and you also have a caloric limit.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what is your caloric limit and how, without going to Waffle House, do you reach it?
People ask it all the time when they see my videos. They're like, "How do you do that without any?" That you just have to. And that's part of how I work with people. I don't know. It's not. It used to be hard. Well, no, it never was hard. Yeah, you just have to. There's so many different foods you could eat. It's not that challenging, honestly. I mean, it's depending on. There's so many different factors which determines like how many calories you should be taking a day, depending on your goals. If it's to gain, maintain weight, lose weight, how much physical activity, your age, your height, blah blah blah, all these different things. That for me, the amount of calories, at least that I'm doing right now, I'm at about 1,800, 1,900 calories per day, which is to me a lot. Well, no, actually, it's not that a lot compared to before. When I was trying to gain weight, yeah, and there's guys that eat way more than me.
Are you frying everything? How do you?
Oh no.
Is everything?
Yeah, I don't even use a microwave.
What?
Yeah, Cameron's for real. The other thing is too, like, I think people find like intermittent fasting. So one of the things I like about it, I'm nowhere near Cameron's level of detail with these things, but one of the benefits, even for somebody who's more casual like me, is that generally people say you worry less about what you eat because you're restricting your intake to a certain window. You're only eating a certain time of day. You're just not gonna be that hungry because you literally get a big meal, you eat through that, and then you're like good to go. So you worry less about it. Like I never count calories because it's just I'm only gonna eat this certain day. I'm gonna eat dinner and then maybe a snack after that as I'm going to bed or whatever, and that's it for the day. So I think go ahead.
I was gonna say Satan's little helper said exactly what I was about to say is that meal prep helps. I forgot to mention that. I meal prep, so I know exactly what I'm gonna eat every single day. So I don't have to think about it. I don't feel like, oh, what am I gonna eat today? Is this enough calories? No. I track my meals, I know exactly what I'm gonna eat, so I just eat. Like I don't have to question or wonder. I know what everything is, how much protein, So yeah. So meal prep does help. So I just
amazing.
Okay. All right. I got a comment on my
Sure. Go for it.
All right. And I want to thank you both for actually audience you for indulging me in this part of the conversation. I clearly have an extended interest in this. So I watched a documentary that someone made about the Atkins diet where they did a study to figure out why it worked. Here's why it seemed to work. When they counted the calories of what people were eating, because again, no sugar, super low carbs, they were eating between 700 and 900 calories per day. And that's why the weight was coming off.
Because they weren't eating a lot.
Because the caloric load wasn't there. They just weren't just look, my Waffle House meal that I haven't eaten yet, I'm fairly certain I'm gonna push past the 800 calorie mark. Just a little.
Just a smidge.
A smidge, right? Using sugar-free syrup, I'm still through 800 calories. I don't do it every day. I haven't had Waffle House in like, I don't know, it's been about a month. So, because it's a treat for me. But I just want people to understand another thing, Kamron, you no doubt will have diabetic clients.
I do have that. Yeah, I do.
You do. Okay, I'm wearing a device. This is a Dexcom G6. They are not a sponsor. And honestly, Dexcom, I think this is not actually ready to be sold to the general public. This should still be in trials, in my opinion. I don't think it's ready because you have to keep calibrating it. It doesn't hold calibration well, in my experience.
Okay.
Why I would suggest your clients try this for 1 month, maybe 2, is to see how their food that they eat affects their blood sugar. So I learned by using this how if I have a certain food, how it'll climb, and other foods I thought I would raise it and it just doesn't. It goes nowhere. I have a standing desk at work. I'll work like an 8 on the low side, 8 hours of that standing up. On the high side, I'll work about 13 hours standing up and sit for maybe an hour a day or something like that. When I come back to the hotel room, I don't sit down. You know, it's got stuff to do. I'll look at my iPad on my belly, you know. So another thing I learned using my Stairmaster that I have at my house is and I didn't use this to learn that. This was no help for that. Again, I don't think it's ready for sale. But my blood sugar would drop 50 as high as 60 points, low end 40 points in 40 minutes on my Stairmaster. So I take pills that are just like $1,100 a month. So that's 60 pills, $1,100 a month. I could walk around my neighborhood for 40 minutes or 40 minutes on my Stairmaster, and it works better than the pill, faster and better than that pill.
Oh, interesting.
So just a hint for you can ask your diabetic clients to maybe talk to their doctor. I think there may be other solutions than this, and maybe somebody else does it better. But just an idea to see how your activity level and what you eat affects your sugar, because everybody is different, right? If you put this thing on, you're a healthy guy. You can eat the same Waffle House meal as me, only you're gonna just. It's like you didn't do anything to yourself, or you'll find out you're really sick, dude. You should get your act together.
Right.
Well, anyway, that's all I gotta say. That's
sure.
I'm lobbying for a healthier meat after Waffle House. So, and Waffle House is also not a sponsor, and they're not giving me anything free.
Yeah, not yet, right?
Well, even when they do, it's gonna like, here's some napkins, sir.
Yeah. Also, no worry, YouTube Punk. Also, we don't have the overlay on because we're doing the restream thing. But yeah. Do you have any closing thoughts, my one black friend?
See you at Waffle House.
No,
I'm really appreciative, and I'm glad that you could answer nutritional and exercise questions. As well. I really appreciate that because I have the love of my life in my life, and I would like to live a nice, long, wonderful, happy, prosperous life with her because she's just so much fun, and we have a really wonderful time together. So I realize I need to make some really positive, powerful changes, and it's nice that you can sit here and enjoy the comedy stylings of my one black friend, myself, and really give me in the audience some sensible advice, because I know for me it has been a struggle to live with the good habits.
But
if I live with the good habits, won't have to struggle. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. That's my piece.
Yeah. Also, I was thinking about how he's in love and definitely feeling a different level of motivation to stay healthy.
I keep trying to put my stuff in the chat, but I notice I don't see it. And then somebody asks,
it might not pop up. I don't know if it's because of link or what that is. Or it might be popping up in the private chat, but not the restream. But yeah, if you shoot me,
I have it on my phone, so I have the screen open and then I don't see it popping up. But I was just trying to tell people, instead of asking me just my name on, you could I would just suggest Googling KB Fit 2.0, which I try to put there. And
okay.
Google it, my Instagram,
Hang on, let me see
YouTube.
if I can get the link, and I'll go ahead and drop it for people. Yeah, that's what I was trying to get.
I have a small.
Oh, you have a
YouTube
YouTube too?
Yeah, it's all under KB
30-minute
Fit.
kettlebell. 30 minutes.
Literally, if you go to KB Fit 2.0, it has to be that all one word, no spaces. That's my YouTube channel, my Instagram. Yeah, no spaces. Everything. I have a regular Instagram too, but it's pretty much the same as my KB Fit. So
these the YouTubers, they get a little, they're a little particular, I'll put it that way. They like their links. Let me go ahead and drop it. I pulled up the KB Fit 2.0.
Yeah, I'm not a mod on this channel. I'm only a mod on Pocket Locker.
Oh, that's what's going on. Okay, and now it's doing this thing again where it wants me to log into the Streamlab. Hang on one sec. Go ahead, log me in. All right, here we go. Here's the link to his YouTube channel. And if you guys give me one sec, I will try to drop the Instagram as well. Yep. Perfect. And yeah, I would go Instagram. For the most part, that is how Cameron and I actually stay in touch with each other, is on Instagram. So yeah, I try to be on all those different platforms and stuff like that because it helps me. Hang on a sec. I've got this. Here's how to close that. Yeah, it just helps me stay in touch with everybody how they prefer to stay in touch. All right, so on my end, cool kids join the Discord. You guys know that. I will be live at 6 o'clock for church for my motorcycle club, Sacred Death. And then I believe at 10 o'clock, we will be doing the audio commentary for Christopher Hitchens. So I have 2 more shows to do today. Pocket Locker 86. If you want to check those out. Thank you guys so much. This has been super, super fun. All right, in the name of the Darwin, the Dawkins, and the Christopher Hitchens, science bless you all. Be good to yourselves.
And each other.
Thank you so much. We'll see you next week. And stay off the sugar.
And soda.